The 10th of September, 2025. A Chinese lady dropped a bomb in court after her father had been sentenced to 20 years in prison, together with other 6 Chinese nationals.
The real owner is right here in this country, you know that?
Who is he, man? Who is he?
I tell you, that big boss, he has a gun-related background in this Chinese community in this country.
Where is he now?
He's living in this country, in this town. In Bruma.
Apparently, according to the mafia, there is a politician living in Bruma, behind kidnappings and human traffickings in SA. A billion-rand industry. The sad part is that this is much deeper than what most people think. Some manufacturing companies worth billions of rands are no longer looking at locals for employment. Instead, they smuggle foreigners, lock them in factories, and force them to work. Cruelty of the highest order, designed to exploit, while the kingpins fill pockets with billions.
Classified.
August 2019. Joburg police received a tip-off suggesting that some Chinese nationals were trafficking Malawian nationals into SA, so they can work in beautiful city garment manufacturing factories. The authorities did not act immediately, but opted to investigate first. They monitored the business up close and identified a suspicious factory in Village Deep. After gathering all the necessary information, a raid was planned. The police joined forces with the Hawks, the Department of Employment and Labor, and Home Affairs. On the 12th of November, 2019, they stormed the factory. The Chinese did not expect this. They did not expect it at all. As they arrived at the factory, the first thing the authorities noticed was that all gates were locked. The perimeter of the factory was high-walled and protected by armed guards. Suspicious for a garment manufacturing factory. The authorities then asked for entry permission, but the Chinese manager refused to open, at first. But the authorities exerted their authority and walked into the factory yard. As they walked into the factory, the workers did not even raise heads, but continued working as normal, which was odd. The workers were all conditioned to keep working, regardless of what was happening. It was only when the authorities started speaking in Malawian that the workers realized something was different. The authorities explained themselves and began inspecting the factory together with the workers. Some began checking the operations, while some checked the documents for workers. The shock came when the authorities got more than 100 undocumented immigrants, more than 100 slaves, 91 from Malawi, including 37 children. The authorities realized that this was worse than what they had initially assumed. This was not a factory. This was hell. This was not different from ancient slavery. The workers were not allowed to leave the premises. In fact, these were not workers, but victims. The victims were forced to work very long shifts, 7 days a week, with no proper training or safety equipment. They lived in crowded rooms, sleeping on thin mattresses, with no adequate blankets. Speaking to the workers, the authorities realized that most of the workers had been smuggled into SA by the Chinese. The immigrants were approached in the home country by a middleman called the transporter, who promised them good work in SA. Upon agreeing, the unsuspecting immigrants were then trafficked into SA. They were smuggled inside containers and taken to the factory. At the factory, the immigrants would then be told that they owed the Chinese transport money for bringing them to SA. They would be locked up and forced to work, with no discussions of remuneration. No contracts were issued, no employee benefits, no bonuses. One worker reportedly lost his finger at work, but was denied medical treatment by the bosses. According to the bosses, the immigrants were paid 65 rands per day. That was way below the minimum wage. The workers were not allowed to leave the factory. If they wanted something at the shops, the Chinese told them to write on a paper, so the bosses can go and buy for them. Cruelty of the highest order. Following the raid, 7 Chinese nationals were arrested. This made headlines across news platforms, with people angered by the fact that humans were treated like that. In 2021, Joburg witnessed another Chinese factory burst. After receiving another tip-off, the authorities moved with caution. On the 21st of November, 2021, a raid was finally conducted at a Sachs Works Chinese factory in Randburg. The operation was conducted by the police, the Hawks, and Home Affairs. Upon arrival at the premises, the inspectors inspected the operations, together with the living and sleeping places. They also checked worker documentation. 107 undocumented immigrants were at the factory. In addition to the undocumented immigrants, the factory violated regulations for working hours, minimum wage, together with living conditions. Workers were locked inside and slept inside the factory building, with males and females sharing toilets and bathrooms. On paper, the company was said to be employing only 23 workers. The factory owner was arrested, together with some workers. This is now a terrifying trend. Recently, there was a big case, in Kenya, involving the Chinese human trafficking mafia. A student was approached and promised a good job. She was promised a customer service job, in Thailand, paying more than 900 euros a month. This was very tempting, and she jumped at the opportunity. But when she arrived in Bangkok, there was no job and no salary. Instead, she was trapped by the Chinese mafia, who turned her life into a mess. Against her will, she was taken to another province, where she was locked at a center that specialized in online scamming. A very emotional story, which is made much more emotional by the fact that according to the estimates by the US Institute of Peace, more than 305,000 people are locked by the Chinese mafia, all forced to work, just like slaves. This is a billion-dollar industry. Just think of all the Chinese-made items you come across daily. Some of these are made by forced labor, people locked up and living under harsh conditions, with no proper salaries, no overtime, no bonuses. This lowers the Chinese production costs drastically, increasing the profits. As a result, the Chinese mafia can put ridiculous prices on the items, which makes them sell like hot cakes. Recently, in August 2025, goods worth over 5 million rands were seized at Durban, China City. The surprise operation was led by the National Regulator for Compulsory Specifications, in conjunction with the police and the National Consumer Commission. The raid was part of a nationwide campaign to remove dangerous goods from South African markets. During the raid, inspectors moved through multiple stores, seizing a wide range of items that failed to meet mandatory safety standards. These included electrical appliances, toys, and even food products. Terrifying indeed.
They're all lying.
Hello.
The hell is this?
Hello.
What are they lying about?
Please.
What?
What are they lying about?
The owner is right here in this country. They're still running business here.
Right.
They're all employed. The boss is right here in this country.
Have you told the police about the real owner?
The real owner is right here in this country. You know that?
Who is he, man? Who is the...
I tell you, that big boss, he has a gun-related background in this Chinese community in this country.
Where is he now?
He's living in this country, in this town. In Bruma.
So, when the lady dropped a banger in court, sensitive nerves were touched. According to her, the Chinese mafia have a boss, a famous, powerful, and well-protected person staying in Bruma.
Tell you what, the real boss, the big boss, the first one, the main one, is right here. And he has a gun-related background in the Chinese community in this country. That is why they always keep silence, because they're afraid they got killed.
And then just then tell us, if you say she's not guilty, what has been happening here since 2019? And what happens to the victims that were found at the shop? Are you saying that all of that is not true? What do you understand happened there?
In my understanding, those workers, they do treat it badly. But the idea is from the boss, not from these. These are just workers. They may have some power over these workers, but there's a boss there. They have to take his order.
She even pulled out her cell phone to show the authorities the mafia boss. But the image was not visible, it was said. She showed them a picture of the front of a shop, allegedly owned by the boss. She even went on to say that there are many factories. And if there are more factories like these, then there are more people still trapped, still receiving cruel treatment, still living in crowded rooms, and still working under abnormal conditions. All this, while the boss is filling pockets. Cruelty of the highest order.